All right, let's get it over with, considering the fact that you guys all want to know where Mad Maggie lies in Apex Legends Season 12 in a competitive tier list landscape. The honest answer is that we don't quite know. We haven't seen her be utilized yet at the highest level. That's coming in 2 weeks, so stay tuned to the ALGS, which I commentate. But as a professional caster, I've seen the game go from meta to meta, and I know what characters have a chance of making it in and what don't. And I'm going to tell you right now, Maggie is going to be an A tier character. This is going to be a character in the tier list that has a chance of being played. Now, S and A tier characters will be in the Apex Legends meta. That means if you get good at them, you'll be pretty much valuable in every single Apex Legends game you play. We're going to break down just a little bit why, go through every character pretty, fast, and we're also going to give you a general landscape of the Apex Legends meta. So you talk about it here on this video, talk in the comment section, leave your thoughts, leave a like on it, and of course share this with your friends to get their ideas of what I'm saying so you can get that leg up and really start to understand how this is working. Because there's still some unknowns. Maggie's riot drill is to me the biggest part of her kit. It is not the ball that goes rolling out and bumping people down to the left doing 12 damage. Okay, I get it. It's a hip bump. It's a hip thrust from your auntie. It's not that much. Whoa, hip bump from your auntie, not a hip thrust. You might have an interesting relationship with your auntie. But it's not enough to really make her dynamic. I think if this character was going to be absolutely S tier to start, that would have to do more damage, and you'd have to get a little bit more than the speed boost. I like the wall hacks that happen in her passive, but after you hit someone is the point there. And it doesn't last as long as a Bloodhound scan, and it's for you, not your team. Things that other characters are better at. But the reason I think she will be A tier, and I don't think she'll start there, I think she won't be played for a while, is that she is going to use so much of her riot drill to change the way people play around cover. And cover is the nature of a high-level play in Apex Legends, especially in the in-game. This will have an impact. We just don't know when and which team will adopt this character because it's going to be a risk. Let's move into a character that's not a risk. It's almost a guarantee. Will be featured a lot more in this season. Ashe. Ashe, I believe, is going to be an S-tier legend. And I believe this because Ashe is a huge part of what makes Apex Legends so great. Aggressive plays and making plays. And some of the teams we like to talk about the most lean on their aggressiveness, like G2 Esports or even Complexity, which you saw Reptar being kind of this star bloodhound for a long time that would just be so aggressive. They'd be wiping teams, taking fights, and other teams had a split where they couldn't catch up. They weren't aware of it. I think Ashe brings all that and more. Her ultimate, nice charge time of about 2 minutes, so you're going to get it back more than 30% faster than Wraiths. You have a really good tether, which is a nice AoE that'll definitely do well to poke, although that ability is a bit lackluster, not even close to the level of a riot drill. But her ability to not only track opponents after checking out their loot boxes, but again, get that phase breach, which is the team-wide push, is going to be a huge part of this season's final circles. I think she does better on Storm Point, where there's more areas to traverse, where there's less cover, where it's harder to get from point A to point B without being shot. I think she will skyrocket this season as one of the very important aggressive legends to play. And I think a lot of people will pick up her over Wraith, to be honest. Bangalore. Bangalore is a B tier legend. I think she could be A because there's a little bit of a smoke exploit going on right now. Not sure if it's a bug or an exploit, but there are some smoke changes that they've made to the occlusion of the smoke. This happened a long time ago. Bangalore used to have smokes that were really easy to see through, and then they made an adjustment and they were very hard to see through. And I did a video on Shiv FPS, 5 rules on how he uses these smokes to shoot at enemies, not at his feet or where he's going, but at an enemy to obscure their vision. And there tends to be some angles that you literally cannot see into that smoke. It's not occluded at all. It's like you cannot see it. We don't know if that'll get fixed or not. We know Shiv has retired his Bangalore, and so I don't expect that many other teams will be trying to do exactly what this character does. The smokes are really good. This is a great character you'll see in your casual games, but you won't see them in competitive this season, and it's going to be below some of these other characters. Bloodhound is an S-tier legend. It's going to fit right in the pocket of where Ashe is and some of these other legends that can do an aggressive play style but also provide information. The reason Bloodhound actually could even stay in this conversation is the scan is obnoxious, but it's team-wide, and that is really what you start to look at, those little things that make a difference into why a character gets chosen in a lineup where you can only choose 3. But that's really not what I think everyone gives love to Bloodhound for that. For me, Bloodhound has a different role of why they're valuable. It's because you can run a Bloodhound and go Gibraltar Wraith. You could run a Bloodhound and go Ash Gibraltar. You can run a Bloodhound and do a Crypto involved with that Bloodhound and get double vision, 2 scans, 2 recon beacon characters because Bloodhound is a recon legend. They can get access to the beacon, which is, in the meta of Apex Legends, one of the most important things. You see where that next ring is going. You understand the logic of those circles, which I should do a video on, by the way. If you guys want that, let me know in the comment section below. But the circle logic means if you see a circle here, and then you see the next circle here within that circle, you can expect that that circle's moving the direction of the circle's closing. So if it starts here, then you see a small one here, you can expect that it's going to eventually do something like that towards the edge of where that big circle started. And that's why when you see the first and then the second circle with a recon legend, you can start making your way towards where you know end game is going to be 9 times out of 10. So you have to have one on your kit. But what does that mean for defensive legends like Caustic? Caustic's an A-tier legend. The reason Caustic's an A-tier legend, even with the change to the barrels, which, yes, can be destroyed, is that Caustic, even in those moments of time, makes you waste 150 damage. That's a full clip of most weapons at late game, or 3 players focusing their attention onto the barrel and the canisters. Plus, Caustic still brings the ultimate. And you know what our rule is for Caustic? Get Caustic to late game, you win. This is going to be one of those lineups that works well with the Gibraltar and well with the Valkyrie because the Valkyrie can help protect and translocate the Gibraltar and the Caustic, and the Gibraltar can protect the Caustic, especially when you're traveling out in those outer ridges of the circle before you make it to that in-game bus or area where you're going to hold up. Pushing a Caustic is pretty much a death sentence, and that's why it'll always be a relevant legend, and you'll see it more probably in EU, in Europe and EMEA and those areas than you do see it in North America. And, you know, APAC South. Give a shout-out to my APAC members and viewers, people watching, by the way. It's great. Crypto. Let's talk about Crypto. Oh, baby. Crypto's going to land right in A. Why not S? Well, Crypto's not a must-play, even though you have these buffs. The only reason Crypto can't be a must-play is because of how niche Crypto is to play. It's a very different playing experience. I saw somebody making fun of it the other day in a video that we watched on my channel. I think it was Shroud, where he said, get this Rainbow Six Siege player out of here. Meaning, in Rainbow Six Siege, you obviously run your telephone, not your telephone, but your vision through these little camera bots for a lot of these characters. And it's kind of the way Crypto plays. Totally different than what the traditional Apex Legends kind of run and gun high movement character is. But the utility that Crypto has now gotten, not only on the drone this season, but the ability to throw the EMP out, get that vision, and then still stay fighting while instantly exploding your EMP instead of going into the drone, doing your ultimate, then coming out. It's a big difference. I think we'll see more Crypto, but I don't think it will be mandatory to have Crypto on your team, which is where kind of these S-tier legends are going to be, really meta-breaking legends. But I'm curious to see what you guys think about that. Fuse has been on the cusp, but he's going to go right into B next to Bangalore. He can't quite get up to A, and I love Fuse. I think Fuse is a great legend. It's probably one of my favorite legends to play. Fuse has these great grenade knuckle clusters. They've done a good job of trying to make those knuckle clusters more effective by, instead of increasing damage, making them last longer. So you can kind of cut off angles a little bit longer and be that much more frustrating. But the rule of Apex is no abilities doing damage to win the fight. I know it's kind of one of those rules where a lot of people make fun of it because there are some abilities that do a ton of damage, but the idea of Fuse is that you can't make someone who explodes things all the time, has a huge cannon that shoots down fire, and is basically just a walking grenade, have all those things do a ton of damage, because then you won't even have to shoot. All you'll just do is just be throwing abilities at people, and that's really the issue for balancing Fuse. I remember talking to some of the designers about this conundrum of how do you fix them. I really don't have a great answer yet. But if you guys have any answers on how to get Fuse more effective at a high level without busting his abilities so that his kit is just too strong in itself, let me know. I'd love to hear it. Gibraltar is going to be your S-tier legend still, and this is where it gets interesting because Gibraltar is really a legend that will determine the meta until Gibraltar no longer determines the meta. And that will be when something bigger than the game happens. What do I mean by that? Whenever a legend comes into the game, it's done by a few ways. And one of the most important and obvious ways is when a team at the top who commands respect plays the legend and does well. Then, only then, after that risk, and then that risk succeeding, do other teams start to take note and say, well, if it worked for them, we have to try to keep up with the Joneses. And they start playing the legend. Now you've got 3, 4, 5, 6 teams out of 20 in a lobby doing something different. And you no longer have to deal with the same level of standardization that occurred with a Gibby controlling in-game circles. Maybe there's a few Gibbies in in-game circles, but maybe most of the fights aren't a bubble fight back and forth. You start to see that little wedge in what Apex looks like. Remember, Apex Legends didn't always have Gibraltar at the front. It was Wattson, it was Pathfinder, and it was Wraith. This game does not always have a Gibraltar standing in the middle of it and won't always will. But until a big Gibraltar nerf comes, we can expect him to stay pretty relevant, or until a team takes a risk on Maggie and if Crypto really becomes that effective, because his EMP does counter his Dome Shield. The problem is you really can't counter a tactical with an ultimate, because the tactical is going to come up every 25 seconds. The ultimate, takes 2-3 minutes to recharge. That's Gibraltar in a nutshell, but still an S-tier legend until somebody goes hard with Maggie. I think Horizon is actually an undervalued legend. This is going to be one of my spicy picks today. I think I have maybe 2 spicy picks here, but Horizon's going to be one of them. This is a legend that has incredible team combo potential. The fact that there are so many late game circles that last for a long time, and height is such a valuable thing, as we've seen with the Valkyrie, and the ability for Horizon to get that extra bit of spacewalk, which allows her to land on the ground, and instead of doing a huge bump and losing a little bit of her momentum, carry that momentum for longer slides, easier into action fights, especially dropping from high ground. She's a legend that just feels really good to play. If she had more utility, I believe, in her tactical to impact other players, I think she would be close to being played a lot more. And I think you will still see teams try to experiment with her. Will she dominate the meta? Probably not. I think we'll see her about as much as we see a Maggie. But at the end of the day, I love the height that she grants. And I think people have kind of forgotten about Horizon after her incredible nerfs. This is a spicy pick, I think, in Season 12. Horizon's been forgotten just enough that somebody's going to try to experiment with her. Lifeline, unfortunately, is going to go to the C area. Now, again, this is based on competitive possibilities, whether you'll see them in the highest level of Apex Legends, not in terms of value in your games. In fact, she probably has the biggest difference between what you'll see in competitive and what's actually really fun and valuable to play, because Lifeline provides a lot to a team. She's got great res potential, great staying power, and she's got a really small hitbox, which makes her harder to win 1v1s against, which is a big part of playing Apex Legends. Her ultimate is fun, it's effective, but it's just not something either of her kits really help her to win a final fight, which is what all of these other kits do. They win you the fight. This helps you, I don't know, have fun, have more loot. At the end of the day, it is what it is. I love you, Lifeline, but I can't give it to ya. All right, Loba. She's going to be right around where Fuse is. But actually, I think we'll see we're going to put her in A. The reason Loba is in A is because actually there's a really strong meta in Europe that uses Loba. Loba has her black market boutique, which allows her to steal items from other players in these final circles and in death boxes and even in care packages, which is pretty powerful. You can take 2 per player, so that's 6 total. So you talk about 6 extra shields to swap, 6 extra grenades in a fight, and they've recently changed the cooldown to be a little bit more. I think it was a minute. It's now, I think, a minute and a half. Very, very low cooldown. This has worked almost every single time I've seen it used, and people refuse to play it. There's only a couple of teams who play it, and without a doubt, every tournament, a team with a Loba gets a win in Europe. I just don't know why people don't commit to this character. I think it's because the translocation of the, the band to where she wants to be, it just doesn't feel natural, and it isn't as reliable as other movement skills, and that's a huge part of what else she brings to the table besides her ultimate. Loba can see other gold and purple items with her passive through walls, which has no real impact in a high-level scene. So a stronger passive for Loba or more reliability for her Q is really the only way I could see her coming into mass playability. However, she's a very good legend. And in those final circles where everyone is running out of armor, running out of ammo, running out of these things, teams with Loba, just black market boutique, you can team wipe a team. They'll take all that stuff before you even have a chance. And I'm telling you, this works. Mirage. Octane. Let's talk about him. Octane on it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm messing with you. I'm messing with my Mirage mains. Let's talk about why Mirage is at the lowest level of competitive integrity. Although we see some Mirages, I think SoX Far, I think that's who it is, in ranks do really, really well. Mirage is a character that is meant for fun, is meant to be a part of the livelihood of Apex Legends roster, is a big part of the storylines, and honestly, is kind of a blast to play. I like Decoy. In fact, Decoy, when you run it, gives your team information when someone shoots it as to where that person was when they shot it. That's more than Maggie's passive. It's actually pretty decent. But the ultimate is where it starts to get a little weird. And the entire idea of Mirage cannot be easy for players to look to assimilate into what it means to be a team. When you're building a team, you look for pieces that complement each other. Mirage feels like he's playing a solo game. Something on his own, a campaign that just doesn't require others. And I think that's the real issue. Hard to change your frame on why Mirage is that way. You just feel it, and I just don't know if we'll ever see this legend in competitive. But hey, I would love to be wrong. We've got another A legend in Octane. I think Octane has definitely fallen off. Octane used to be an S tier legend. Octane also used to be. Oh wait, what am I talking about? This is a little spicy pick. Octane is in B. Yeah, this is the spice. I don't think Octane is actually going to be played very much this season at all. I think Octane fell from grace with a couple of the changes that hurt the amount of health that he has to take away when he uses his speed stimulant on his tactical, and the distance and the velocity you can get on your Octane jump pad. Truly, that was the biggest key. Once you change the jump pad, that's movement. And the movement in high-level play, especially when it's easy and up frequently, really determined a lot of the ways players would play Final Circles, take different angles, and approach fights and situations that they never could have gotten out of before. And we've seen it a lot with TSM. But Octane just doesn't have that anymore, and the changes have hurt him significantly for being a character that top teams can play. Sure, he's still fun. You will enjoy Octane a lot in your own way, but not when you're in the ALGS. Pathfinder, going to be a C here in terms of whether we'll see Pathfinder in the ALGS, the competitive integrity. Things just, I don't know, maybe are perfect in life. The karma of being maybe the best and always played character for Apex Legends for many seasons since the very beginning, day one time, to now being almost irrelevant at the highest of levels and even in sometimes the casual levels. Maybe it's just a little bit of a balancing act. In fact, if you call the last 5 seasons and the first 5 seasons, you actually be like, yeah, okay, it's basically evened out to 0. What will be the future for Pathfinder, though? I think a change, again, to the grapple. I think there's nothing wrong with grappling that much. There's not a ton of utility compared to what Bloodhound brings, even if you add zip lines, the original grapple, and, of course, the fact that Pathfinder is a recon legend. But the fact that Valkyrie exists, the fact that Bloodhound exists, and even the fact that Crypto exists and are all in that recon beacon area, that's really taking away the uniqueness of what Pathfinder does. When you talk about a grapple and a zipline, there are other ways to move around the map that are more cost efficient, that are better in late game, that don't make you sit in ducks, and even the zipline nerfs to how many times you can jump on it. This character's just been nerfed to the ground. Unfortunately, really fun, but won't be used in high level. Excuse me. Rampart here, and I want you to pay attention to these last few legends because they're very, very important. Rampart here is going to be right where Pathfinder and Lifeline are. Really fun legend to play. Really good defenses with her shields, and the ultimate, being able to move on the run with that thing, great quality of life change. But Rampart suffers from what I call the problem of being an underpowered legend on release. One of my biggest videos ever, just quick story, in my life was making a video called Why OP, overpowered, releases of characters for this game called Smite are best for the game. And people raged at me. I was getting hate comments left and right. They didn't understand what I was saying. And look at it now. When you get a character who comes out and every day someone goes, this character sucks, I don't ever want to play this character. To do the work to reevaluate, to change the brand of that character as to something that's viable, it's nearly impossible. And it takes so many resources from the game development company, so many patch notes, so much work to try to get someone to finally tip the scales and go, you know what, Rampart's actually OP. If Rampart comes out OP, oh, it's easy. You'll see a Rampart here and there, you nerf a little bit, and he either goes into kind of, not really played but still clearly good, kind of like the Horizon area, or, still good and gets nerfed, but is still very much played. Maybe, kind of what we've seen with some of these other legends, like a Valkyrie, right? But really the intention of what Rampart really showed us and will show you guys in gaming development, you got to come out with a stronger character. This is a great character, great personality. I even interviewed Anjali on my channel. You guys can watch that. It's really fun. just doesn't have the stuff long term. And I don't think something drastic will have to happen to change that. Revenant as well. This is tough. I love Revenant. Revenant had his meta with Octane. And chances are you would see Revenant in APAC North or South a lot more. So let's not forget that APAC North and South play the game a little differently. But in Europe, in EMEA, and in North America, you're not going to see Revenant at all. The Revenant Octane combo was really, really good. But those two characters now being Octane being nerfed, the distance of the Revenant ultimate being changed, and the ability to really take advantage of it, there's just not enough for Revenant to be played. And I'm sorry for those who really want Revenant to be good. Now, in a casual setting, I still really like Revenant. It's a tactical playstyle. The silence is really fun. In fact, it's incredibly long-lasting. And I think the climbing feature is just a really cool way to get around the map. It's just a really fun way to play on buildings, play on height, and the ultimate is always fun. So in casual games, I think Revenant's a really fun character, just not going to be seen in competitive. Seer as well got the same treatment. I think Seer's kind of in the B area. Seer doesn't really provide anything unique to the meta that's going to counter Gibraltar, counter Wraith, the Ashe. Doesn't really provide the movement, but provides a ton of vision. And I honestly love vision in games. It's really easy to count, but you could see why Seer, why other characters like even Maggie provide vision, but they don't have the recon element that Bloodhound does. So you get that one character doing almost two roles, the vision and the recon, so you don't have to pick up a crypto. You don't have to have a Valkyrie if you don't want to. You don't have to have a Pathfinder. And that's why Bloodhound has just maintained this really strong place in Apex Legends. And unfortunately, until Seer gets something, and I think Seer also is Recon Legend, but the point is the fact that Bloodhound can bring in the scan a little bit more efficiently in a wider cone, and the fact that Bloodhound has the movement, and the fact that people understand how to play with Bloodhound within that ultimate, and Seer got nerfed early on. I just feel like to replace these two, somebody has to make a move. I don't see it happening in the season. Wattson is another legend as well. That is a B, but could easily become S if she ever gets strong enough. The fences, the ultimate, I think she's just waiting on a change to the ultimate. They've tried to nerf that and change it a bunch. Wattson's still a fun character to play, but my Wattson mains out there, show some love in the comments. I want to see what you think Wattson needs to become a top-tier legend again and be played in the ALGS. So far, when you talk about defenses, Caustic has just proven a little bit better. Will we see the change in Wattson and Caustic due to the adjustment of the Caustic barrels? I don't know. But I do think Wattson has something special in her abilities. Plus, you cannot discount this. Wattson is a very small hitbox. She's one of the smaller hitboxes next to Lifeline and Wraith in the game. She's very good in 1v1s. I think Wattson, Wattson is on the precipice, but what do you think she needs? I think Wattson simply needs a reversion or a similar power strike of what that generator used to do. If she can really find the value in her generator again and shut down ordinances late game and shut down those kind of ultimates like Gibby, that's why Gibby's been able to run as his own counter, because there is nothing like a Wattson pylon that is as efficient as it used to be in handling all of those situations. You can't really count on them as much. Valkyrie, S. We end with the best, guys. Valkyrie as an S tier legend. Let's talk about why. Valkyrie's mobility is the best in the game, in my opinion. Valkyrie contains herself so well, with every part of her kit being useful to an individual and a team. And that's what you look for with a high-tier legend. Valkyrie can skyward dive up into the sky and be outside of the zone by a mile and somehow find herself in the very middle of the zone with her and her teammates. That is unbeatable location movement, and that means you can play on the ring if you have a late drop or a bad fight. You can play on the outsides of the ring and still get in, or you could play in the center of the ring and relocate if you realize the ring's moving somewhere else. There's no other legend that has that ability. Valkyrie reaches a pinnacle just on that alone, and you get to see vision on where other teams are playing as you're dropping down. But that's not all, folks. She really has a great poke, and this is something you don't necessarily notice, but when you have poke, whether it's an ordinance, whether it's an ability, whether it's something like a riot drill from Maggie, which I already showed you, a missile swarm from Valkyrie is really, really good poke. And it allows in late game, when you are out of ordinances, you're out of grenades, arc stars, thermites, you can still apply pressure to a team. And it really does set up some really nice pushes and give you information on where their shields are at, especially if they're behind a box and you can't shoot them. So you don't know, where are they at? Did you just crack somebody? Are they super low? Are they flesh? This is that information, and she has it on a relatively low cooldown. Valkyrie is just one of those legends that has it all, and she's a recon legend. So you can fill so many different roles with her. One of the best in the game. You're going to see her big time. And Wraith, you will see Wraith here. And this Ashe Wraith battle is going to be what I find most interesting in this high level meta this season. Are we going to see people stick with the Dimensional Rift, which might be twice as long to charge in terms of getting it back up in late game situations as the Ashe Phase Breach? But it gives you the ability to go forward and go back. And it also allows you a little bit of time of invulnerability because of the distance traveled. You actually travel that distance in the Dimensional Rift, meaning late game heal-offs, you can beat a lot of teams just by going into your ultimate. The difference, too, is that Ashe, while she has high ground capabilities, Wraith has to actually climb to those areas to reach anything higher than where she currently is, which takes time and also can expose herself. But she's got the best ability in the game, and her passive is super underrated. So before we talk about that best ability and why, let's talk about why I think the passive is something most players don't recognize its value for. When you have this voice passive, so anyone is staring at you, Wraith gets information that there is a team nearby. And many teams try to conceal themselves in these late game circles. You don't know where they are. But if you stand in a certain location, you know that, hey, where I am, someone can see me. Her passive will tell you someone's looking at you, and she can share that to her team, and they can immediately be on alert. Trying to thirst a Wraith by team firing, trying to burst down a Wraith, and also as an in-game leader and a scout, which is one of the most important roles in a game, I think many are going to still opt for the Wraith because she provides the best immunity in the game. That's right, the only iframe, the individual immunity that if I am in trouble, I just press Q and I go into the void. When I come out, I at least have another chance. I can call my team while I'm in distress. I can go into a Gibby bubble, but you cannot kill me. There's nothing you can do to be the best Apex player in the world that will kill me when I press my Q. And that's why Wraith has always been at the top. Oh, and her small hitbox as well, and the fact that she's been popular for so long, so people are so trained at playing with her. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think about this tier list. I worked hard on it. I hope you guys enjoy it. And, of course, subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 400,000. If you like this one, I'd love a share. As always, never give up, never stop gaming. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. If you agree, disagree, I'll see you guys next time.